Hi, and welcome to Grisu Media Arts Presents UX Talks. With me, your host, Snehal Singh, CEO and founder of Mind Spirit Works. Today, we do have a special guest with us, Aaditya Sengupta Dhar. Aditya's first book was handwritten, staple encyclopedia of ancient civilizations he wrote when he was 8. And seeing it displayed in the school library motivated him to keep writing. He wrote his first fantasy novel, Secret Tales, in 2018 when he was just 10. His next novel, Legend of the Broken Blade, in 2022, won critical acclaim, being selected as one of the top 15 must read books of 2023 by the Morning Standard. Aditya aspires to use his writing to make a positive difference. His 2020 ebook, Underdogs, raised awareness of the importance of helping underprivileged children unleash their potential, with sale proceeds donated to Save the Children India. His 2021 book, Back from the Brink, was based on research funded by micro grant he won from MIT Solved and highlighted the issue of urban animal extinction and how we can make a difference through simple everyday steps. The Teens Guide to Saving the World 2023 inspired teens to create a positive impact in their communities and won silver at Nonfiction Book Awards in the United States. His latest novel, Kaalchakra, 2024, aims to make modern India youth feel that while we live in a globalized world, we should take pride in our cultural roots and heritage. A short story on this theme won Gold Finalist Award at the prestigious Queen's Commonwealth Essay Competition in 2023. When he's not writing, Aditya can be found working hard on his schoolwork, following cricket with passion, and practicing karate, in which he holds black belt. Aditya is 15 years old and lives in Mumbai. Welcome to UX Talks. Aditya, would you go ahead and just tell us a little bit more about you, apart from what is there in the bio?
I'm 15 years old and I live in Mumbai. And like all students my age, I'm busy with schoolwork. But beyond that, I love following cricket and I practice karate, in which I hold a black belt. I also have a great passion for reading all kinds of books, from fantasy by J.R.R. Tolkien to history by William Dalrymple and lots of mythological books. And I love writing and have published in both fiction and non-fiction.
Wow, that's amazing at the age that you're at. At the age of 15, you have already written 5 books. And where and how did this journey begin, Aditya, for you?
So I've always loved reading, and in particular, I've always loved learning about ancient history and ancient civilizations. So when I was 8 years old, one day I started handwriting in a diary an encyclopedia of ancient civilizations. Now, this wasn't a published book, it was just lots of pages in a diary. But I got a lot of encouragement from my parents and also from my teachers at school who put it up in the school library. And that's when I got that encouragement and I thought, why don't I write more? And I had a lot of interest in history. So when I was 10 years old, I thought about what if all these important events from human history were influenced by another civilization? And what if that civilization was one of intelligent animals in a mysterious island in the ocean? And this idea is what gave birth to my first published novel, which was Secret Tales.
Wow, interesting. I'm just going to add another question here, Aditya. How do you continue writing? Because many, if I'm talking about your life, there is so much. You have school, you have homework, you have things to do. In midst of that, at the age of 8, you managed to not only write, but also get that work out. So, what kept you writing? Was there a discipline or a routine you followed? How did that happen?
So I think if you love something and you're passionate about something, then you'll manage to take out time for it. Like, of course, I have schoolwork, I have other interests also. But when I'm writing a book, I always try to take out at least half an hour every single day for an extended period of time to keep writing because I need to have that consistency. And on holidays and weekends, I do a lot of my writing, so I may sit for hours on those days.
Wow. And I think you said it right that it's passion. And if you're passionate about something, you will actually go ahead and put in efforts. But apart from passion, what do you see as uh, rewards or benefits that you actually get from writing? Can you share some stories behind some of your other books as well?
I think ultimately writing is not for yourself, it is for other people. And the biggest reward of writing is forming a connection with people. And when those people who have read my book, they get back to me like with reviews and discuss the kind of connection I've made, that's when I feel great, because it's like I feel like I've accomplished the main goal of writing a book, which was not to satisfy myself, but to have some kind of connection with people. And you asked about stories of my other books. So I'd like to share a story of a book called Underdogs, which I wrote during the lockdown. So during the lockdown, I saw visuals on TV of all these migrant workers having to abandon everything and return to their village homes. And that's when I thought about a lot of things that I see every day. Like living in Mumbai, I often pass by slums, I often see children in the street, but earlier I hadn't thought much about them. And that's when I started wanting to make a difference to them. I really wanted to do something. And that's when I wrote a book called Underdogs, which raised awareness of the need to help underprivileged children unleash their potential. And I donated all sales proceeds to Save the Children India. And this felt amazing because for the first time I was actually impacting someone's life. But I didn't want to stop there. I wanted to go further, learn about how I could make a difference in other ways. So I learned about the sustainable development goals. I learned about different issues, what I could do. I also got a mentor who's a leader at UNICEF, and I got some internships at UNICEF as well. And those experiences really shaped my understanding and inspired me to write my next book, which came out last year, called The Teen's Guide to Saving the World. And this book was for teenagers, because what struck me is that often as teenagers we think that the world has so many problems and we can't do that much, but actually my research and understanding has shown me that there are already so many teens who are making such a big difference, and inspired by this, I written this book for fellow teens.
Wow, it's fascinating to learn the stories behind some of your earlier books. Let's come to your current book or the latest book, which is Kaalchakra, The Rise of Kalki. Tell us more about it, Aditya. It's fascinating to see someone at your age writing so much in depth about something that happened way in the past. So tell us more about that.
So Kaalchakra is a fantasy novel that is based in a modern day, but it's based on Hindu mythology. And it follows two teenagers from Mumbai who find out that they are involved in ancient Hindu prophecies, and thus they go on a quest to help to save the world. But more than just the literal quest, the novel is also about how they learn more about themselves. They understand their roots, their heritage, who they are, and through this novel, more than just entertaining teenage readers, I also wanted to, through the stories of these two characters, encourage teenage readers to go on their own journeys to learn about their roots and where they come from.
Wow. Uh, so you're from 21st century, and I have to ask this. What made someone like you from 21st century teenager obsessed with ancient history, mythology, and somewhere, as you said, about the roots? What makes you interested about that or obsess over that?
So I've always loved learning about the cultures and mythologies from of different peoples from around the world. Like I used to know a lot about Norse, Mesopotamian, Greek, Roman, and lots of other mythologies, but for quite some time I knew very little about my own culture and mythology compared to what I knew about others. So one day my parents gifted me a book called A Story of Indian Culture, which was written by Bahadur Mal, and the author had autographed this book and gifted it to my great grandfather in 1956. And when I read this book, I was struck by the depth, the complexity of our culture, of how far back Indian civilization goes, and all of the lessons that could be learned. And I really wanted to explore more. So I read lots of books like the Bhagavad Gita, the Ramayana, Mahabharata, Shiv Puran. And through these, I was not only mesmerized by all of the complex stories, but I was also intrigued by all the lessons that there were to learn, by all the characters that were there in these books who could be role models to me and to everyone. And eventually, I thought of writing something around this theme. And I'd always loved the fantasy genre, reading and writing in it. So I thought of combining that with a modern context relatable to modern teens and with these ancient mythological texts. And I wanted to come up with a story that would not only entertain but would also, invite some thought on for teens on going on to discover their own roots, like I have been trying to do. So that's how Kaalchakra was born.
Uh, but do you think today's youth is receptive towards this idea of, connecting to the roots, connecting to our culture and the ancient science or knowledge that or wisdom that it brings in?
I think today's youth are growing up in a very globalized world, and that naturally has an effect because sometimes it might distance them from their roots. But ultimately, our culture is a very important part of who we are and where we come from. So, like, there's a limit to how far you can be from it, and that's why youth is still receptive to learning about their culture. And one example of this is after Kaalchakra was released, I got so many reviews from young people on Instagram, on Amazon, and many of them talked about how they loved learning more about their mythology and culture, and also about how it encouraged them to learn more about their roots. And that showed me how receptive young people still are.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's amazing to even hear that, Aditya, because sometimes we feel that the new generation or the Gen Z is so not interested in knowing, but what you're saying actually goes right against it, where they are interested and they are not only interested, but they're also showing the interest by connecting with you, giving you reviews, and letting you know that they enjoyed this journey of knowing things. They say that youth is our future, okay? And do you think learning about the past will help us curate a better future? What, in particular, if you could share certain things that you learned while you were doing your research, while you were digging a little deeper into the mythology, things that you learned from your immersion in research, anything that you could share with us?
Yeah, I think when I have read or many of these ancient texts, I have been inspired by many of their lessons. So I think the modern generation can certainly be inspired by them. And for example, when reading books like the Bhagavad Gita, which discuss self-discipline, which discuss doing one's karma, one's duty relentlessly without worrying about the fruits of one's actions, I think those messages are very relevant to today's youth because nowadays we have social media, we have technology, which are often very big distractions. And we also have this talks about a mental health crisis among young people, which is concerning. So books like the Bhagavad Gita with these messages can help give young people today more clarity, give them focus, and make them understand that they don't need to, stress about everything and they should not get distracted by other things. They should stay focused on a clear path. That will also give them fulfillment in whatever they do.
Wow.
Also, another important theme which I have seen is the importance of following the right conduct, doing dharma, doing the right thing, because the victory of good over evil is a very prominent theme in many of our ancient epics and texts. And young people are often susceptible to various influences. Sometimes they fall into bad habits as well. So this idea of doing the right thing can really guide them.
Interesting. Aditya, how do you manage this? Because at the end of the day, you are the Gen Z as well. You are the 21st century person. You are a 15-year-old. So you would have your own distractions too. How do you overcome? How do you bring awareness to how much time am I spending on Insta or probably all the other social media or even games for that matter? So how are you managing it?
I don't spend too much time on social media or on games because they're like passive forms of simulation after all, so they never really like engaged me that much. And I think ultimately for today's young people, rather than looking for passive recreation, like they should they should understand, they should follow their passion, like think about what they love doing and just follow that, because that will also give them more longer term contentment, longer term fulfillment with what they are doing. Because, using social media might give short term gratification, might make them feel good right now, but eventually, if you invest in some passion of yours, you'll feel better in the longer term as well.
I loved what you said because, yes, delayed gratification somewhere is going missing. Aditya, thank you so much for all the time you have given. But I still have one last question for you, and that is any message you have for all our young viewers today who are watching this video?
Well, I myself am a teenager, I'm young, so I wouldn't pretend to give advice to other teens, but one thing I will say is that we are growing up in a very globalized world. Like, we are watching the same movies, using the same social media platforms as millions of other young people our age around the world. And that can be a good thing, because after all, we have to learn about the world, we have to connect with other people from around it. But we need to strike a balance. We shouldn't forget who we are, where we come from, what makes us uniquely part of our culture. So I think it's important to go take the benefits of globalization along with exploring our roots and where we come from, because I think that's important for having an identity of who we are as well.
Beautiful, beautifully said, Aditya. Uh, Thank you. Thank you so much for not only your time, but also adding so much of value by helping us understand how important it is to go back to the roots. At the same time, how does our mythology, our history, and our ancient wisdom helps even today to the next generation, and how important it is to keep adapting ourselves with the new while keeping our connect with the old. Anything else, Aditya, that you feel you could share with our audience today? Anything else that comes to your mind?
No, I think I just encourage any young people watching this that to continue exploring their roots and culture, because personally, when I have done it, it has fascinated me a lot to learn more about where I come from, and I think it's something that is worth exploring for all of you as well.
Beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you once again, Aditya. And that was Aditya Dhar for you. We will meet you once again for the next episode. Until then, take care and be safe.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Aditya.